Welcome to a member-only episode of the McFuture podcast. That's right, only for patrons. I kicked off, or resurrected is probably a better term, my newsletter, which I've been collecting all these email addresses for years. I mean, like 7 or 8 years through the website. And I've sent out a newsletter here or there, but for the most part, like for the last few years, I just haven't had time to put anything out. And the list, let's put it this way, has not aged well. Mailing lists don't work like wine, where you just put them away somewhere and then you pull them out and you can sell them to some French guy for like $40,000. It's not how it works. Apparently, a lot of my list was really bad. In fact, it was so bad that the provider I was using, it's a company called Review that got acquired by Twitter. They stopped the distribution of the newsletter because they're like, wait a minute, we think you're a spammer. In fact, we're not sure whether to like stop your newsletter or send police to your house. So I'm like, all right, maybe I need to do something about it. And so they froze my account, and then I had to go and cleanse my list. So I had to, subscribe to like 3 different services because one, wasn't as good as, anyway, it's a long story. So finally, I have a clean list. I've lost a few thousand people off of it, but that's okay. They were probably white supremacists, so it doesn't matter. we can let them go. But the first newsletter did not reach everybody. And what I'd like to do more of is I want to do special episodes behind the newsletter, like basically the unhinged version of what I'm really thinking behind the newsletter. Not that the newsletter is not what I'm really thinking, but I polish it up and I, try to make it presentable because I got a bunch of like very senior executives who get this thing. Like, there's, I as I was going through the list and trying to fix up some of the emails, I noticed there's like CEOs and COOs and CFOs of all these tech companies you've heard of. So I'm like, I got to be nice on this newsletter. Not nice, like fake, but certainly not like full-blown Steve. That does not sound very appetizing, full-blown Steve, although I have had relationships in the past where it must have been at least on some level appetizing. Anyway, but here I would like to be completely unhinged, as you are probably noticing is happening right now. So the first newsletter was about NFTs. And in case you don't know what NFTs are, they are bullshit, but they are making people a mint. So Logan Paul, who you might have heard of, he's like the super famous YouTuber. He's got a podcast now, but the guy's huge. He's also now boxing professionally, as is his brother Jake Paul. In fact, I think Logan just signed up to fight Mayweather. Anyway, so this guy is killing it. He's making millions and millions of dollars. One of the most successful YouTubers in history. And he sold digital trading cards for $5 million. Then a bunch of investors poured $31 million into these 2 crypto art markets. And then Elon Musk's baby mama, Grimes, she sold 10 digital art pieces for $5.8 million. And then Christie's auctioned off this digital mosaic by an artist called Beeple or something like that. Beeple, I don't know how to pronounce it. $69 million. But none of this is exactly what it seems. So I want to get into what exactly is happening. And Jack Dorsey auctioned off his first tweet for $2.5 million. And I bought it. That's right. I bought Jack Dorsey's first tweet. Okay, clearly that's not the case. What kind of sucker do you think I am? I wouldn't pay a penny over $1 million. Anyway, so what the hell is going on? What is an NFT? What the hell is happening? So, in case you don't know, NFT stands for non-fungible token. Basically, it's a digital file that lives on the blockchain, which is a ledger that is copied across multiple computers, and you are the rightful owner. Now, what owner actually means is kind of uncertain right now because, like, can I license this photo that I bought from Beeple for 69 million? Can I license that to anyone else? And who the hell would want it? And also, because it's out there already, why can't everyone just copy it and use it on their own? Your ability to protect it is only as good as your legal defense fund or your legal offense fund. Anyway. And there's a guy who I know, Scott Belsky. He's actually, he was the schoolmate or college mate of a guy I mentored at American Express. And I met him at his office a while back and then ran into him in a party or two or something. And he started a company, I forgot what it is, but it's... I forgot the name of the company, but it was acquired by Adobe, so it did really well. It was like an artist collective where artists sell their work. Anyway, so he bought an NFT called Furry Lisa from Christie's, and he made this whole blog post arguing how this is the future of art. All art will reside on the blockchain, and he to some extent put some money where his mouth is, and I'm all for creators making money, doing whatever it is they want, wearing cool hats if that's what they want to do. But the two main perks of crypto art, as I understand them, are first that you can verify the ownership, right? Because it's assigned to you. There's a specific number that's associated with that file that is assigned to you, and it removes middlemen. So you don't have to go through some like snooty, greedy gallery owner, and you still know that the thing that you're buying is authentic, even though it's a file. And so it's completely frictionless, like KY jelly. Now, all of this is still true as long as you look the other way at the reality that the most expensive NFT was sold through Christie's, the middleman, like the stodgiest of middlemen. Like it is the top hat of middlemen. And, there's a little bit of BS as in all things blockchain. And if you think about art in general, it serves three main functions. So the first function is investment. The second function is status. And the third is decoration, right? You want it to look nice in your house or, your boat or, whatever it is that you're embezzling. Now, the problem with an NFT is you'll need to print it out if you're going to show it off. So when you're talking about status, you better make sure your butler gets a good inkjet because you're going to have to print that thing out to show it off. And it's kind of trivial to copy this thing. It can be shown on millions of screens at the same time. It's a digital file. Someone could copy it. Someone could jack it. Not to be confused with jack it off. No, it's terrible. Forget I said that. And it's, the reality is, unless you're just standing there at a party silently going, hey, that thing that's on the screen? I own that. That's mine. Nobody cares, but that's the reality. And luxury goods, and certainly art is a luxury good, they don't work like other markets. Like discounts, sales, low prices, abundance. These are all things that ruin your bragging rights. You want to have exclusives. You want to have stuff that nobody else has. And so the snooty, greedy middlemen are not friction that destroys the experience. They are the experience. That is what you're paying for. You're paying for some snooty douchebag to kiss your ass, and to tell you all these amazing things. Oh, Mr. Faktor, so glad to see you. We've got you some sparkling Avion with a tinge of lime and gold and the essence of saber-toothed tiger, whatever it is that it's going to take to get rich guys excited and hard for this art. And that is the experience. That is how you know that you're rich, by having other people know that you're rich. That treatment is what you want. And, maybe the next generation of one percenters are going to be different. But for now, this intangibility would traumatize the trophy wives of Orange County. Like, to not be able to hang up this thing that you bought that's supposedly this great piece of art. So it's kind of, how would I put, speculative to say the least, bullshit to say the most, I guess. I know what the extreme is, but this beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and ultimately comes down to belief. Are there enough people who believe this thing is worth what you paid for it or more? And that's what sustains markets. And we're at a point now where belief is everything. Like, what is intrinsically valuable? Probably not a lot of things. Like sneakers. Like, sneakers are taken off. Like, sneakers to me are utility. I put them on, they match my outfit or whatever, and I'm off to the races. Not literally the races. I'm too fat to race. but okay. But I can leave the house and look presentable enough. Let's put it that way. So what is it? What is a real market? What is real? What is valuable? No one knows. And it's really what anyone else will pay, even if it's speculative. So the question is, why is this happening? So there's a few reasons. So first of all, there is so much funny money flying around because of cryptocurrency. There are so many people who made obscene amounts of money that you'll never hear of. They're still working as coders or whatever it is that they're doing. But there are guys, and it's mostly guys. I think it was, what was the percentage? I had it in here somewhere. Some like ridiculous, half are single men under 30 and the rest are guys under 45, and they're worth millions. These guys are building Cheetos flumes in their house. These guys are building skate parks, and now all they just need is the right lady to share it with. And this kind of money, it's like Mr. Monopoly got knocked up by the lottery. It is so unreal that these guys are just willing to spend this stuff because it's not even real. It's crazy. It's like, it's just like these zeros, extra zeros that hang out on their account. And because it's blockchain and they believe in blockchain, and certainly they have a good reason to believe in it because it's made them rich, why not? Why not do it? So the guy, and this is the interesting thing about the guy who bought the $69 million mosaic, his name is Justin Sun, and he runs a crypto platform called Tron. So this might as well be a business expense for the guy. He could write this thing off because this is good marketing for crypto and for his platform and PR. So I wouldn't even be surprised if this whole thing was just a huge marketing blitz to get blockchain adoption and to pump up the value of crypto. And relative to the insane value of crypto and how big it's become, it would be a drop in the bucket. So I would not be surprised. I don't know if it's that coordinated realistically. I don't have some crazy conspiracy theory, but it just would not surprise me. The other part of it is blockchain does not have a use case right now. And I know there's people who will argue to the death about this, but even cryptocurrency, like the original use case for Bitcoin was supposed to be as a currency. No one uses it as a currency. It's this thing that's supposed to appreciate constantly. So no one gets rid of it, and certainly they're not buying stuff with it. They're accumulating it because it's a speculative asset. And there's Ethereum that other people have built other currencies on, but it's just like a Ponzi scheme. It's currencies upon currencies upon currencies, but no one is actually using them to spend or to buy or to do anything. So they're not really currency. So now Bitcoin's been rebranded a store of wealth. So it's this store of wealth. Great. And maybe it is and maybe it isn't. But the promise of blockchain dwarfs its reality. And they've tried to use it for all kinds of like smart contracts and tracking. And I'm sure some of those things, some of those use cases will arise. But we're like 20 years in now. Is it 20 years? No, it's 10 years in, at least, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 2009, Bitcoin came to be. Satoshi Nakamoto, AKA the CIA, came up with it. Anyway, so who even knows? Who even knows? And what do I think of the future of this thing? first of all, I think we're in this weird moment where there's cryptomania, and because a lot of people aren't working, and a lot of people have had this time to trade on exchanges, and certainly the crypto guys are going crazy because they've accumulated so much wealth. So I think some of this just goes away when everything returns back to normal, or more or less normal. And I think a lot of marketplaces, consultants, and all the people selling you the shovels are going to be fine. They're going to make a few bucks. In fact, I know a guy who does this. He's basically like trying to get people to, he's like a consultant, a crypto consultant. I don't want to say too many details. And I've referred some people to him, but not because I believe in the product. It's just because I have friends who are artists and I hope they can capitalize and make a few bucks. So I sent it to my friends and I tried to connect them. But I think a lot of it's going to be like ICOs. So at some point they had something called ICOs where all these people made up these fake currencies. And so, I mean, literally fake. Like there was no plan for them to exist. They just made up a Word document, and they fudged the people who endorsed it. They just put famous investors on there without any proof, without any documents, and they put this thing out, and they raised millions and millions of dollars. A lot of these things. Anyway, that was all fraud. It was all bullshit. At least now you'll have like a nice JPEG to remember your fraudulent experience and raping by. I don't think any of these guys realistically expect any kind of real utility out of this thing. I think they know that they're just all in on blockchain, and this is part of some libertarian utopia that they think will exist in the future, which I'll get to in a second. And, so when I evaluated, like what are the potential uses and what's the value? So I rate the art and collectible market for NFTs as 6 out of 10, because the real art market is not going away, because NFTs are not going to replace all those other elements of showing things off and retaining value and all the things that people buy real art for. So, and also there are tons of juicy tax breaks and money laundering schemes with art. And some people suspect that NFTs are being used that way as well. And I'll be honest with you, I have a document open on my computer about how the NFT money laundering scam works, but I have not read it. So it is a possibility. And, I think it'll help some galleries in the short term. And the galleries and these middlemen like Christie's selling NFTs kind of legitimize NFTs, which I think is the goal. And also diversifies their revenue streams, because all these, they get access to all these crypto guys who are eager to burn their cash or their crypto, whatever. So I think it can work for collectibles, baseball cards, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. All of these things kind of make sense as NFTs. And as long as the collectors are okay with converting the things that currently keep them virgins into these virtual things that will likely continue to keep them as virgins. As far as digital rights management, this is where I think the real upside or potential of NFTs is, which is uniquely identifying ownership of a digital asset and saying, oh, Steve owns this piece of art. Steve owns this painting. The problem with that is that whole infrastructure doesn't exist right now. So like all the tracking, the ability to tag and find these things, like that technology exists right now. So there's a bunch of, Getty Images does this. So Getty Images will find people using their images without their permission and sue the shit out of them, or at least threaten them until they get paid. So it's an extortion business. And, ultimately NFTs could end up in the same place. Maybe the ease of ownership or proving the ease of ownership is going to be easier, but ultimately it's the same thing. Your business is only as good as your litigation budget. So if you can afford lawyers to go after people for using your, Bipple art, which you paid $69 million for, then, I guess if you could afford to pay that, you can afford to hire lawyers. But that's just the reality. So I don't think it gets you that much further along. It's still a very much a theoretical use case. The other thing is ticketing. So tickets sold on the blockchain are very hard to forge. And, live events, but live events are a monopoly. Live Nation and Ticketmaster, at least in the US, they control the experience. So they've already brought people in-house into their own app and environment. So now people are just going to be using their app, and even allows for people to sell tickets and trade tickets to each other. So I don't know that it's that necessary. Maybe for like secondary event organizers or private event organizers or people like or companies like Eventbrite, or maybe in other countries, there's some potential there for conferences or bullfighting competitions, whatever it is that you're organizing. Yeah, there's some possibility there, but it's good for preventing counterfeiting. But I think if you bring something in-house inside of an app, it's also pretty hard to counterfeit. And the more interesting thing, and I rate this also 5 out of 10, that NFTs are kind of a prelude to the Matrix. What I mean by that is that they're kind of unbundling the digital good from the video game. So now there's this digital art that you can use, or at least have and own, outside of a gaming environment. Now, inside a game, you'd buy like a sword or castle or magic spell, and the developer doesn't really have that much of an incentive to make them unique, right? Because NFT is all about unique ownership, because they can just resell the same swords and the same magic potions over and over and over again. And gamers are also a captive audience. So once they're locked into the gaming experience, I don't know if the NFT adds a whole lot, but if the NFTs become tradable and portable and can be resold and moved in and out of gaming environments, then you might have something more interesting. Now you have something that now you can decorate this fake world that you spend all this time shooting pigs in. I don't know if any of these games you actually shoot pigs, but in case you do, you can decorate it really nicely. You could have like a picture of me, like, riding a moped, I don't know, naked, probably a Vespa, because I picture if you're going to be naked on a moped, it would have to be a Vespa. And some creepy Italian guy going, you're a beautiful girl. Actually, no, that was a French accent. What is it? It's been a while since I've done an Italian accent. You are so beautiful. I've never seen a beautiful woman like you. All right. Anyway, my accents need to work. It's been a while since I've been out of the house. This pandemic is really ruining my cultural appropriation. It is really making it difficult for me to, to steal the accents of others and appropriate them for myself, and then go on an apology tour like the guy who played Apu. What's his name? The guy from The Simpsons, Hank Azaria. He went on an apology tour. I actually think this is what I think Hank Azaria should do. I think to apologize to Indian people, we have to ship him to India, and he has to personally vaccinate every single Indian citizen. That is, I think, the correct punishment for Hank Azaria. Hey, listen, you can't just be an appropriator like that. You got to go and pay your dues, Hank Azaria. Use your millions for good. Bring a few pallets of, a few tanker ships or whatever of vaccine, and start stabbing. Start stabbing Indians, Hank Azaria. Ironically, this matrix concept does solve all of the issues with digital art, because it becomes a good investment if it's unique and can be resold. You also get status in the form of these exclusive powers and privileges inside of a game or some virtual environment. And you can peacock inside your game. It's like, hey man, look at all the stuff I own. Look at all this stuff. It's gold plated. This is, cryptocurrency plated, So yeah, any guy who's showing off his stuff inside of a video game is a Guido of sorts, even if he's not a Guido. And, the more time you spend in this virtual environment, the more valuable your NFTs get. So And it could also be overlaid in your VR, so you can live in some crappy neighborhood, but then you put on your digital overlay and all of a sudden you're seeing all these amazing artworks and whatever. Meanwhile, people are stabbing you, but you don't care because your world is rosy, it's beautiful, it's covered with all these NFTs you bought. It is amazing. That is amazing. Now, the last thing that I think people who are into NFTs and blockchain in general, and I'm going to do a separate episode on this, I don't want to just sideswipe it, is this libertarian dream. Because all crypto, for the most part, at least among the hardcore believers, is stapled or crazy glued, with an extra emphasis on crazy, to some libertarian utopia. There are no giant banks in this world. There is no paper money. There are no borders. There are no middlemen. Everyone trades directly with each other, and blockchains ensure trust between them and with all these transactions. It's live and let live. And look, this utopia sounds good for some people who are pretty self-sufficient, pretty smart. It's going to be shitty for a lot of people who aren't that bright, who aren't that tech savvy. And it violates a lot of aspects of human nature, the power of incumbents, whether it's governments or corporations and rich people. And it also violates the DNA of the so-called decentralized system that's being built right now. So in that respect, I think it's this libertarian utopia is never happening. But I don't want to give it short shrift. I want to cover it in more detail. And I'll also be honest with you. Like, I'm having a little FOMO on crypto investing. Like, this is something I've known about for years. In fact, I wrote about Bitcoin in my book. So I wrote the book sometime early 2011, or finished writing it, and it came out end of 2011. I knew about Bitcoin. I could have if I put in $5, I could have owned like 40 Bitcoin. It was like worthless. It was worth like fractions of a penny. I could have been a multi-trillionaire by now. Instead, I'm here making videos for you. So please tell a friend, tell others that Steve Faktor is struggling. He needs your help. He needs your subscriptions. He needs mental help. And the only way he's going to get it is with more Patreon subscribers and supporters. So share this with others, share it with a friend. There's going to be a brand new episode out this week on the regular feed, and this episode for all of you, my wonderful, lovely members and Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, even though when I talk sometimes, I talk in irony so much that it's hard to even ramp down to sincerity. So just because I've been in that sort of, insincere mode going through NFTs and ranting about it, don't mistake that for a lack of gratitude. I am really grateful, and thank you guys for supporting the show. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time on the McFuture.